You all set? Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First order of business is to have a school choice public hearing.
I move we reject school choice because we don't accept 500 of our own students every year
Second.
from our own district.
I have heard a motion and I have a second. Do we have any comments from anybody?
I'd like to make the committee aware that the school council has voted not to, or encouraged you to vote not in favor of school choice. And I might word it just slightly differently. And that the interest in coming here is so great in the district that we cannot accommodate all those who have interest in joining us. So I support the recommendation.
I think we have an obligation to sending towns to make sure that we do the best we can to get as many of those kids in, students in, as we possibly can. So I'm in agreement with that. Any other comments from anybody? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion is moved. Thank you.
Move we close the hearing.
Second. Have a motion to close the hearing. We have a second. Any comments? Hearing none. Call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So moved. Thank you.
Reconvene at 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Already in advance of the meeting, we've been made aware that Dave Bartlett will not be able to be present, and Dennis Braun will not be present. Also, the chair has notified us, Attorney Hall, that he will not be present.
So you're stuck with me.
Well, that's hardly the way I would have worded it.
First thing I'd like to do is I'd like to call for a moment of silence for the loss of BVT engineering student, class of 2019, Alexander Valoris. Thank you. Okay, can we have the secretary report, Mr. Yates?
Mr. Chair, I reviewed the minutes of the regular school committee meeting of March 8th. I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any comments? Seeing here none, call for vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Abstain? Thank you, sir. So moved. Treasury report, Ms. Oliver.
Yes, in your package you have the February 2018 report, and available at the meeting this evening was the March 31st, 2018 report. For the month of February, we had $6,913,080.96, $6,110,893.74 were in local funds, and $802,187.22 were in project funds. During the month of February, we had received the last few of the member assessments, and everybody is paid up to date. I think I might have reported that at our last meeting. And it was a pretty routine month, as months go. A little quiet on the quiet side with the school vacation.
Great.
Make the motion to accept as presented.
Second.
Do I have a second? I do. I have a motion, I have a second. We have a comment, Doc.
Yeah, I was asked a question about the term deductions as it's described. Would you, for the benefit of, I don't recall who asked that, but just the benefit of insight, would you explain it?
Sure. So when deductions are withheld from employee paychecks, the money is receipted into the district's treasury and then paid out to the specific vendors. So that the majority of that money is for health-related health benefits.
Thank you very much. My understanding as well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair. Motion?
Yes, we get one more question. Yes. Dean.
Yeah, just one question. On the grants, we had quite an uptick from February to March, from $46,000 to almost 1.2. Was there any one significant grant that we've gotten over the past 30 days, or was that multiple grants that have come in?
It's multiple grants that come in. The grants I know in March, because I just finished the report today, were for the LPM program. The ones in February were a variety of other grants, probably reported on the report that Kurt provided you last month.
Okay.
Special education, variety of
Yeah,
categories.
it's titled, the title grants.
Title grants.
Motion.
We have a motion. Any other comments? As for vote, in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you. Ms. Augustine, next one.
Okay, so at the end of March, we have $4,922,462.63. Local funds have $4,120,610.94, and project funds have $801,851.69. In total, our cash is lower as of the end of March, because in March, we had 3 warrants processed. We had one at the beginning of the month and one in the middle and one at the end. So they're 2 weeks apart, and as the committee's aware, that happens once a quarter, where we have the extra warrant. It's usually a 1-month thing, and then next month I expect that the cash will stabilize back to the normal place that it's at usually. Besides that, we did have, we were carrying a higher than normal student activity balance in our bank account, but during the month we paid out a significant amount of money for the competition that's currently going on. And yeah, I hear they're doing well down there. While I was in the office tonight, Kurt was able to speak to somebody, and they had won 3 events, so they had a few more to go, but they were doing well. And that's about it. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, call for make the motion.
Make the motion to accept. Seconded.
We have a second. Any other comments, questions? Seeing, hearing none, call for vote. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, given the fact that Mr. Broderick is not here, at least not at the moment, but is expected, I suggest we pass over number 4.
So be it. Let's go to number 5. Comments by student representatives, Colin and Jake. C and J.
Or JC.
Oh, JC?
Balance that.
It goes both ways.
You're a trained diplomat, Colin.
Oh, yes. So we've been up to a lot the past couple of months. Just recently in March, we did MCAS goodie bags for the sophomores that took the English MCAS. So what we did was we took airheads and pencils and we put them in small goodie bags. We used a tagline that said, "You're not an airhead," and gave them out to them before their test. We also plan on doing that for the science MCAS and the math MCAS. Skills USA state competition is coming up. I believe it's 2 weeks away. And student council will be helping out with different competitions, such as criminal justice and restaurant skills and things like that. We also have facilities appreciation coming up. We're going to do posters and then a small breakfast for them as well. Mr. BVT is coming up. It's May 3rd, and the student council will be assisting with selling tickets and seating people.
The CDMASC Spring Conference is coming up on May 4th, and we actually have Emily Donnelly running for CDMASC President. The Walk for Hunger will be on May 6th, and BVT Stuka will also be participating in that. On May 16th, we will hold elections to announce a new executive board for student council, and there are 20 people running for 8 positions this year. And on May 18th, we have the Westboro Dance Marathon, and all proceeds to that are going to the Boston Children's Hospital. And actually, for the second time this year, we're having, on June 15th, we're having the second annual handball tournament. And it's the same as last year, and it's all going, no, sorry. It's actually going to Mr. Gansick's family this month.
Where is that dance going to be held?
Westboro.
In Westboro.
Westboro High School, yeah.
Big house.
Really?
1 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
Very good. All right, any other comments? Thank you for your report.
Great work.
Great work, fellas.
Thank you
Keep
very
it up.
much.
Item number 6, the Aviation Club, Mr. Ray Lanier.
Good evening. I've been before you many times before, and I can always ask if you have any questions for me about what we've been doing, or well, we just got back this morning at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I got home about 2:15, and
You look great for that time.
well, the tan helps, it gives you, you know.
You look great also, you did, right?
We missed you.
Well, you know, it's funny you should say that because, you know, I'm in my classroom today and kids all coming in. And I remember being in school when we walked in and saw we had a sub. It was sort of like, yeah, you know? And like, they walk in like, hi, Mr. Lane, hi, Mr. Lane. And it's like, I was so welcome to be back, you know, after 3 days in each cycle, you know? So that was kind of nice, you
Oh,
know?
indeed.
How is this, how is that? A lot of questions from kids. It just continues to be very popular among them. Also finding out it's actually rather unique. There's apparently not a lot of high schools that have programs like this. They tend to focus more on just one segment, like they will do construction or learn about an aircraft system or something. And I really try to make it so that they do everything. I've had the great privilege of taking some of the kids flying in one of my planes. And in fact, Colin here is a survivor. And you know, I shouldn't say it like that.
Not in front of his mother.
The problem is now he has the
No, in front
buck.
of his mother. If he doesn't do his chores, he's not going to be a
she
survivor.
supports me.
So what we did for Colin's flight is we all went to Worcester Airport, and there were 3 of them. So each one sat in the front pilot seat behind the controls. And they really did take off themselves the first time. Just so you don't think that's too scary, I am a licensed instructor, and that's how it's done. I have my own little wheel that I can grab, you know. And we flew off to Orange Airport and landed, and then we switched seats so everybody could then have someone else in front. Then we went over to Southbridge, which conveniently has a wonderful diner, and so we had dinner there. And then we switched seats again, and by this time it was pitch black dark, so we went way out to the east towards Boston and then came around and made a nice long, slow approach right in over the city, just hanging and looking at the lights and seeing things. So they were all starry-eyed when we landed. They literally went to their car and didn't touch ground still, you know. So that's always a real thrill. It's such an honor for me to have that privilege. One of the fun things about this trip is I get a million thank you, Mr. Landis, right? And it's funny, my wife is the other chaperone, and within 10 minutes, she stopped being Mrs. Lehner and became Mama G. Within 10 minutes, okay? And, you know, they always say, thank you, Mr. Lehner. Thank you. I says, that's okay, I had more fun than you did. And they're like a little freaked out by that, because you're gonna hear from them in a moment. But I didn't have very much time to put together pictures of this year, but I got a few. Mrs. Mitchell may have an extra one she might want to share.
I told you it's
Just
going
take
next to
a
my
quick
picture
look
right
and
now.
pass them all around, and then the other half, and then come back the other one. This picture here is one of
I want this one back.
It's quite beautiful. Like you say, so
one of them. We go to indoor skydiving, and it's not just, you know, mindless airhead fun, like you said, right? We go through like a STEM program where they learn the science behind it and what's actually going to happen, and why, even though they're floating in a room with a wind going upward, that they don't feel like they're falling. You know, they're still at 1 times the force of gravity, and they really learn a lot about why it's happening, and then they get to just go into this solid glass, plexiglass room, and they get to fly inside. And they love, within seconds, all you have to do is request a posing of a picture, and they instantly assemble for a good one. So that's always very positive. Anybody have any questions about anything that we do or try to do? I always also believe that I've seen so many times that people just walk in, well, that's an airplane and this is this. And I try very hard to reveal everything to them that's very important to see through like almost a production. Like one of these pictures, it shows them all in a very long line. And we're the last people to do this from our little pre-show, which is a mission control simulated launch. So when it's our turn, they have to put their heads down and walk along this red striped line, which I know from before is there. They can't look, and they all, 28 of them, file right in, then they turn 90 degrees to the left, and when we get the cameras ready, then they're allowed to look up. And what they do is they see the business end of a real moon rocket. And you can see this is kind of a fuzzy picture, it didn't come out that well, but when they see that for the first time, they're permanently changed. I actually said goodbye to them before we did it, because I knew they were coming back different, you know? So everything I really try to promote that enthusiasm with them, so that when they see these wonderful things, you know, that morning when they were woken up with a text message, they were told to just start getting excited, because this is the day they touch a piece of the moon. And so all day long, they couldn't wait until they got to the place where they could touch a piece of the moon for real. And so that's kind of a big moment. They all have to pose and get their picture taken for it. And there's a lot of pictures. There's tens of thousands of pictures out there now for this.
It looked like they had enjoyed themselves at the adventure.
The other thing I wanted to comment on, and I have mentioned this before, but I am just so continue to be blown away by the reputation that Valley Tech has, not from a reputation standpoint, but the one they develop by their actions when they're there. There was one point where they just simply had to sit in a row of seats and put a seatbelt on an attraction. And one of the people doing that, attendants, came around and said, "Are you the chaperone here?" And I was like, "Uh-oh, you know, what does that mean?" And she said, I said, "Yes." She said, "You have the nicest group of kids. I can't believe, you know, I can't remember a time when we had such a nice group of kids come through here and do this. I don't know what they could have possibly done by going in, sitting down, and putting on a seatbelt that caused that." We went to a museum, and they were getting ready for an air show this opening day, and, well, our opening day. And a lot of the planes that we wanted to see were no longer in the hangar to be viewed. They were we could see them way across the airport. And I happened to ask the gentleman if we would maybe have any chance to get over and see them. And he said, "Oh no, that's under federal jurisdiction. That's a secure area, and you know, with airports nowadays, it's just, they don't play around." So we went and we toured what was available, and we certainly had enough to look at. And then the commander, it's the Valiant Air Command Warbird Museum, and the commander of the museum, if you will, got a hold of me, and he says, "We'd like to take your group across the runway to the secure area so they can see those aircraft as well." So they contacted the FAA and the TSA and made arrangements for us to drive our bus right over into the middle of all those aircraft and let them get out and look. So it was their behavior that led to that. And absolutely everywhere we went, all I ever get is compliments about the behavior of the students at the school. They clap when a movie ends, like they're thanking the movie for being shown. It's really, truly remarkable how polite and pleasant that they are, you know. I also want to just lastly mention that a source of real pride for me is that we have never, ever, ever left any kid home because it was expensive or they couldn't pay. And yearly, I speak with Anthony about whatever issue happens to be that year, and he's just fabulous in support for helping me. You know, I'm not saying it because my boss is sitting there. He always he always finds a way to help out if we need to have help. And so we had a person this year that would never have been able to go if it wasn't for everyone just refusing to say no, we're not going to leave her home. So it's worked out well. Kids could not have been better. And I think there's some of them. I only knew that Colin was going to come tonight, but I seem to have a larger entourage that would like to have a few minutes to speak to you about it.
By all means.
Yeah.
Consistent with the behavior of the Valley Tech kids.
So our first day, we went to the Valiant Air Command, which was in Titusville, Florida. Absolutely blew me away. I've never seen planes so beautiful in my life. Then Friday we went to NASA. I cried twice in one day. He told me that I was going to cry, and I didn't think I was going to. But they lifted the screen, and the Atlantis space shuttle was sitting there, and you've never felt like an American more so in your life. Absolutely. Like, there's no feeling more than seeing that space shuttle. So I was like, wow, that's awesome. So then we go to the Saturn V building. We're standing in the line, and I look up, and I'm like, oh, here it comes again. A rocket that is 13 stories tall is like in front of your face. It has over 1 million pounds of thrust. Absolutely insane. It's a skyscraper that flies. Just on Sunday, we did the Keys to the Kingdom tour in Magic Kingdom. I would say it's probably the most exclusive tour that you will ever get in Disney World. I stood under Cinderella Castle. We went underground into the Utilidor. We toured the entire park. We learned everything about Main Street USA and how when Walt and Roy Disney designed the Magic Kingdom, that they wanted to be like you were walking into a movie theater. The train station right out front is the red curtain, so you can't see anything behind it. You can't see the castle. Then you go under the tunnel underneath the train tracks, and you look to the left and you see all of the previews of the rides that you're going to ride. And if you look down, you notice that the streets are red, just like the red carpet that you would walk down. And then the first snack in Magic Kingdom is popcorn. Like, you're going to sit down and you're going to watch a movie. And then you turn that corner and you see the castle right there. And you think that you're going to walk 200 yards down Main Street USA, you're only going to walk about 80. Because as you walk down Main Street USA, they designed it so perfectly that the road narrows as a vanishing point. The buildings get larger as you walk down, and then the castle's right there. The Main Street USA also degrades by 14 feet to make it seem like you are walking further. And then when you leave the park, it's an easier walk. I personally hold 2 memberships, one with the EAA, which is the Experimental Aircraft Association, and the AOPA, which is the Aircraft Owner and Pilots Association. I would say they're the 2 largest aircraft associations in the country. And I joined them because I plan on getting my pilot's license. The first time that I flew with Mr. Lehner, I landed and I knew that I wanted to fly again, and I knew I wanted to fly for the rest of my life. I can honestly say, from the bottom of my heart, and I don't say this to be offensive or anything, but personally, I think I learned more in the past 8 days in Florida than I have in 4 years of high school. That's all I have to say. And I can't thank Mr. Lehner enough. I can't thank Gina enough. I can't thank you guys enough for letting us and giving us as a group this opportunity. Thank you.
I would say it's your teachers that gave you the foundation so that you could learn it.
There you go. Well said.
Would it be okay if I sat?
Sure, go right ahead.
Thank you.
We're sitting. Is the lighting okay?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's just great. So good evening. My name is Tim Snow, if you don't already know me.
He's holding the lights for.
Beautiful, thank you. Anyways, I'm the senior vice president. I'm also, we're good now. I'm also an avid member of the aviation club. I've been part of the club since freshman year. I'd also like to mention that despite my graduation this year, I would also look forward to happily visit and join this committee as a student rep or a graduate rep in the future to, I guess, give insight on issues that are pertinent to the school. So I just wanted to throw that on the table.
Good, great, thank you.
Yes. I've known Mr. Lehner since I was a freshman, and when I switched into his advanced physics class almost mid-year. Mr. Lehner welcomed me with hospitable and warm arms and gave me the tools to succeed in his class. From this, I became mesmerized with his applicable and insightful lectures on rockets, aviation, and space to demonstrate a physical concept or phenomena. Myself, along with 27 other students, had that same feeling and became intrigued and signed up to go on this trip freshman year to Orlando to explore the wonders of aviation mixed with the enhancing magic of Walt Disney, and also to spend a private week with Mr. Lehner and Gina. The amount of knowledge that we acquired over the course of this trip is simply so immense and exponentially applicable to my life that is truly unquantifiable. From Neil Armstrong's story of landing on the moon, frantically trying to find a place to land, to Apollo's famous yet humorous contact light story, to a complete Lehner-esque rundown of every component of the Saturn V moon rocket, with a conveniently placed one-to-one existing replica or existing rocket of a Saturn V, and also a walking tour of an air museum detailed with stories and conflicts of warbirds throughout World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. At one point, we were even within a football field's distance of a C-17 taking off. That was incredible. And consequently, we were also enlightened by my favorite lesson, a teary-eyed explanation of the proportionate relationship between gasoline and fun. Despite common perception, we did not loathe around all week and eat Mickey waffles and spam Space Mountain. But I can say that I feel righteous enough to speak on behalf of the 27 other students in saying that this trip was life-changing and it's unrivaled for years and decades to come. Moreover, this trip was special to me because it moved me to rethink my life in its entirety. Sitting on the edge of the lagoon at Epcot, as fireworks danced around the sky, or as watching Mickey fight off the forces of evil in the name of hope and magic were incredibly emotional to me, along with almost everyone on the trip. As I've mentioned before, I've known Mr. Lehner for years now. If I had just known him for a few hours, he would still be the single greatest person I've ever met. The sheer knowledge, spark, and twinkle, and magic this man possesses is immense. Now imagine that person, taking you around Disney for a week. Because this tour,
Okay, we had fun, all right? I appreciate it.
Because of this trip, I learned that anything is possible. I learned to seize the day, to never relinquish or give up on your dreams. I learned to reach for the unreachable star and bear the unbearable. I learned to drive through life's obstacles like a freight train and overcome adversity. This trip furthermore enhanced my perception of charity, true love, life, death, adventure, self-consciousness, freedom, magic, and more. Lessons that will change me and the 27 others forever. This trip is the most important and impactful journey any student can take at this school. Most notably, Mr. Lehner and his unfortunately metaphorical P-51D Mustang flew us 28 students on a journey of a lifetime. And to put it in the words of John McGee, to put out our hands and touch the face of God. Mr. John Keating once said to his wide-eyed students, "Carpe diem, seize the day, boys. Make your lives extraordinary." Mr. Lehner told us to live. And we did live. And we will live. Experience life to its fullest. All thanks to this one man and to his wife on this trip in the marshlands of southern Florida. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I know this is going beyond our time block.
You know what? That's fine by me.
Actually, Mr. Leonard, I just finished presenting to 8 finance committees, and that's the reaction I got from a lot of the finance committees.
You were doing the thing.
Yeah, I'll give you a hug, huh?
No hug.
I just want to start by saying thank you for your time. I've heard a lot from my 2 other classmates who have gone on this trip, and I'm going to keep mine short and sweet because you've heard a lot of the aspects from educational standpoints, but there's a lot more to this trip that's just like goes into from him planning it. We have an itinerary that we followed to a T, and it blew my mind. The timing that he could make it down. That 17 years of timing that could come down to minutes of even from, he would buy we had fast passes in 3 minutes. We were early 3 minutes, and it was never on accident, and I knew this, but following the itinerary, I knew I would wake up in the morning, I knew where I had to be every minute, but I knew I had to follow it. We would have free time, and I knew that my free time was only so long, and I knew I had to follow it. And learning that, I knew that it was a good skill to know because that's how it's going to be. You're gonna have to be somewhere, you're gonna have to know where you're gonna going, and it's a good skill. I mean, from a money standpoint, I brought a certain amount of money and I needed to budget that. It's a great thing to know. We had to be able to buy our meals for the week, and being able to budget that out and think that through, and being able to buy presents for family if we wanted to, all those expenses, it didn't come without us knowing that throughout the week we were gonna have to be able to do this. This trip, I learned so much, but I also learned a lot of life skills that I'll never be able to forget. And I was able to put these life skills to the test in Florida, having a blast with my classmates, senior year, my last hurrah. I'm going to college, and this was an amazing trip. And I could talk your ears all night off about this trip, but I won't. Keep it short and sweet. I just say, this was the most amazing trip. I can't say thank you to Mr. Lehner and Gina enough. Thank you.
You forgot to tell me.
Oh.
The most important thing that happened to him during the week.
Oh. I actually, thanks to Ms. Lehner, I successfully yesterday got a prom date. I met her on the trip. And because of the magic of Disney and this man, I had the courage to ask her at Disney what magical place, you know? So I can't say thank you enough to Ms. Lehner.
I guess it's apparently been decided that any offspring that may come later will have to be named after me somehow.
Cool.
Did you bring your sister?
This is my mom.
Nah,
So I'm Jess, and I was a junior who got the opportunity to go on this trip this year. And there's not much else to say. Like, I could say a million things, but it all kind of just comes back to everything we did had a purpose. Like, I felt like with our itinerary and all the surprises we got, it was everything we did like was educational, and we like every day, like even when we were doing like the Disney stuff in the mornings, we would have like a behind the scenes like tour or like program where we were learning a lot. And even when we didn't have tours, Mr. Lehner was giving us his own tour, like when we went to NASA and everything. He was showing us around. He's like, oh, look at this spaceship, and it does all these things. And even if we didn't have a tour guide, he was our tour guide. And it was really nice to have like someone there to like explain things to us that maybe if we like attended with our family or like our friends, we wouldn't get that same experience and knowledge from it. So my mom wanted to talk too from the perspective of that.
You're here.
I'm not sure there's a lot I can add to what everyone has already said, and I'm sure if everyone else was here, they would each have a different perspective. It was just fascinating and interesting. Basically, it was one of the most amazing and educational experiences of Jess's life. When she first told me about this trip, it was a couple of years ago, which included Kennedy, Disney, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Gore Bird Museum, Air Show, iFly, to name a few. I thought, well, that sounds interesting and fun. But when I got the extensive itinerary Mr. Lehner had planned, I was blown away by the schedule of activities and events. Nearly every minute was accounted for, as they've already spoken about, from the time they woke up in the morning until the time they went to bed at night. And imagine my surprise when last night Jess told me that itinerary was only half the stuff we actually did. Mr. Lehner had surprises for us every day. Things like behind-the-scenes educational tours and things that are above and beyond what they could do on their own with their own families, simply because they were traveling as a class in a school trip. And what makes this trip even more special is that it's planned and carried out by one of your staff, Mr. Lehner, and not by a tour company. This trip, it is truly one of a kind, planned especially for the students at BVT. Not every parent can afford to or feel safe sending their child to Europe for a high school trip. There may also be kids, I guess that was mentioned, who could not even afford this type of trip to Florida with their families. But for the hard work and fundraising opportunities provided by Mr. Lehner, they have this excellent opportunity to travel and learn. I just feel that the value of this trip, both educational and otherwise, far exceeds the cost. Mr. Lehner is an excellent deal finder and planner who is incredibly invested in making this the trip of a lifetime for each and every student who attends. I very much hope that Mr. Lehner continues to plan and host, along with his wife, give her some credit here, the BVT Aviation Club trip to Florida for as long as he's willing and able. It's something that my daughter Jess will never forget, and absolutely one of the major highlights of her educational experience here at BVT. Thanks.
I'll be happy to take any final questions if you have anything you want to ask or say.
I think they told us your lights on your phone.
He's not very tech savvy.
It's just Trump, don't let it bother you. That was wonderful. It's so nice to hear, we hear about trips, the kids tell us about trips, but to really feel it with these kids and what you meant to them, meant a lot to me. And I appreciate very much the sentiment you folks gave, and I appreciate very much your wife and you doing an outstanding job of making it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your support of things like this is why our kids love it here. They love it here. They love each other, they love their teachers, they love coming here. I didn't have a chance to check the attendance, but most of them came to school today. I saw so many of them in the halls. And they're on 4 hours, so they must want to be here. So I think it also helps us maintain a safer environment when kids have things they can look forward to long-term that they're interested in, and it helps them even if they're having, struggles and things that gives them something long-term to look forward to. I've always found it works for me, and I think it's working for them too. And it's to your credit that you allow it, because it takes guts to do so.
Yes, Doc. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we usually have the field trips out of state, the field trips in Anthony's block, but in this case, given the topic and the feedback we just received, if you look at 6.2, we invite a motion to approve the field trip
I make
so
the
described.
motion.
Second. Geez, that was quick. I guess there's not going to be much discussion on this one. I get a motion, I get a second. Any comments at all? Call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Planning starts tomorrow.
Nice job, everyone. You want to return to number 4?
I do indeed.
Yes, I'm hanging it in my desk.
If anybody has any question, we're going to move back now to, because we see that Mr. Joseph Roderick is here, and so we'd like to move back to item number 4, special recognition from Dr. Michael Fitzpatrick.
It is my pleasure to present on behalf of the Massachusetts Vocational Association, generally considered to be the Teachers or Educators Association for the vocational technical schools across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, a certificate of recognition for the Friend of Vocational Technical Education given to our own Joseph Roderick. The award is given to a member of the business and industry or political affiliate for their exceptional devotion and support of quality vocational technical education, and it's signed by the presidents of that organization. Joe, congratulations.
It's a pleasure working with you people, and I really don't need an award to, know that. Sorry for my tardiness. You know what I mean? It's just a pleasure working with you guys in the school. You know how it is, Doc. You've been here for almost just about as long as myself. So. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Number 7, vocational department presentation. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I guess at 62 years old, this is my version of a PowerPoint.
I recognize it.
Thank you.
Don't tell Curtis I use so much paper, though.
It'll show up on the budget.
If you notice the photos, it starts off with the tent that we purchased for out back. That was all assembled by the students with an instructor. It has made a big difference for us as far as safety with the kids, with having the extra room, building the sheds out there and having less kids in the shop. It now also has heat out there. It is done with a pellet stove, which was, I believe, through a grant from Tom Belling. We were in the process now of just filling out a permit for that, and the building inspector is going to come out and take a look at it for us. But we're in contact with the fire department just to let them know what we were going to do, and they approved all of that. That was also installed by an instructor and the students. That's how it's sold. If you look a little further, you'll see a few of the jobs that the kids do in the shop. And if you open up your manila folder, there are the plans that they used in order to build those projects. There is, one of them is a toolbox that they build. I brought a sample of one of them in the back there if you'd like to look at it. They build each build a toolbox so that they have their own tools in the toolbox, so when they come in on a Monday morning, they're ready to go to work. They'll have the chisels, their tool belt, their tape measures, safety glasses, and they each individually have their own toolbox. We still have our masonry program with Mr. Procopio, and he comes out 30 times a year, and we're able to use the alternatives building to run that. We just reserve a van. He takes out 6 or 7 kids. All the masonry equipment is out there, and it's a very popular part of the shop. Right now, the outside project going on right now is in Blackstone for the Chamber of Commerce. They're building a wall there for them. And then he's going to go to Bellingham to repair a vinyl siding on a library. And then they're also going to repair some dugouts in Bellingham. And last week, we had Ladder Safety Week. And at the end of that week, they had a Jeopardy game, and I want to tell you that Construction Technology did win that particular that game. And I had a little bet with the electrical instructor, but he told me to bring my A game. Basically, we take care of any jobs around the school through Mr. Brochu. He lets us know anything that needs to be repaired around the school. We are currently now looking at the dugouts and the softball fields to see if anything needs to be repaired there for the springtime. We have talked also about possibly building some brick walks that are going to lead from the parking lot to the ticket booth so people won't have to walk in the mud for the football games. And we most likely be using donated brick that is stored out in the back of the MRS building. So there are, a lot of good things going on around the school also. Any questions on anything?
Is that pellet stove, did you get it actually fired up?
Oh, yeah, it's up and running. It's up and running. It generates enough heat to take the chill out of the building.
Right.
It's not as if you're in a room that's 60 degrees, but that's all we were looking to do.
Yeah.
It's going to be very beneficial during the exploratory program, because the later weeks of exploratory, the kids were out in the parking lot building sheds, and you could have some very cold days.
Yep.
So it's very beneficial for that time.
Nice, very nice.
This is a sample of the toolbox that they do build, and the plan is there. Again, each one has their own. They can keep it at the end of their freshman year, and they'll open it up, and they have all their little tools ready to go right in there. We supply everything for them, so they actually don't, they just take the toolbox. They don't take the tools when they're done. But it's as you can see, the numbers I provided for you for the different, the freshman, sophomore, and junior, senior year. We have a total of 67 students, 18 females and 49 males. And there's a description of what they do in each year. One of the unique things this year, we were contacted by students from Bryant College, and they asked us to build a playhouse for them. And that playhouse would go for someone that has cancer. It's Make-A-Wish. So we contacted some local vendors that we do business with, and they donated most of the materials in order to do this. So it was no cost, or very little cost, to the school in itself to do this. The playhouse that was built by the kids is going to go to a young girl in Uxbridge. So it's still going to be within someone within the district. And there's kind of a special, one of the seniors that is working on this had cancer. And he's done very well, and he's been a big part of building this. And it's been a wonderful experience for him. I spoke to Anthony earlier. They're going to present it, but he's going to be an academic, so hopefully they're going to make arrangements so that he'll be able to go for that presentation. So it's been a great thing, and we're going to get some good publicity about doing this also. Any questions on anything?
Just a question for you.
Yeah.
What is the Adirondack chair? What is that made? What's the wood?
That's poplar. And actually, there's a grant I believe they got for redoing an area between Guidance.
Yes.
Remember how they were going to do the waterfalls last year? So they've asked me to price out building Adirondack chairs out of cedar. So we've gotten the price now for the cedar with knots and cedar without, and I got to review that with Vicky, and then we're actually going to build 12 Adirondack chairs. And but of course, depending on the cost is which one we'll go with. Mm-hmm. But normally we do build them out of poplar. We are looking into building them next year possibly out of southern yellow pine, depending on the cost. And how we work that is each sophomore builds 2 chairs, and they get to buy one, and then we use one for the different raffles or for a golf tournament. Chamber of Commerce may call for one, and that's what we usually use the other one for. They're in big demand. So.
Yes, sir.
Just a question in general. How does construction technology stay up to date with the latest equipment and techniques? So how does the program change its curriculum based on new innovations out in the industry?
We're always looking, to do what we can to do that. We go to we didn't go this year actually because of the dinner, but it was it's in Providence. It's a big show that lets you know all the new equipment that's coming, all the new lasers, the new saws, and the salesmen that come in also bring you updated with the new equipment that's out there.
And do you get a lot of feedback from the advisory group?
Oh, Joe's always been
Oh,
very
it's
good
Joe.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, discuss it and then whatever.
Because
they might
building
think.
techniques are changing pretty fast these days with new materials and new methods, and I was just wondering how we stay up to date so our students graduate with skills that are useful.
That's how Joe gets these awards.
We're always buying the newest and updated saws so the kids are as safe as possible. Yes.
At what grade do they go into the masonry program?
Junior, senior, sometimes sophomores. It depends. If we have a sophomore that's interested in skills, we get them into the masonry program because that is part of the team build. But it is more so junior and senior in case that. But if it does happen that someone's interested in skills, we make sure that they get into masonry.
Have you seen a switch over to where there's been more young ladies into the construction technology?
We have a lot of interest in ladies that are
Oh,
interested,
cool.
yes.
Nice.
Matter of fact, there are two very skilled young ladies that are in the sophomore class.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Oh, glad to see that.
without a doubt.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions, any comments? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Keep up the good work. Director of Student Life, Michelle. Bell.
Mark, you hope to use the skills or no?
It wasn't up for that. This is the first year it'll be up.
No, I know, but now that we have the new skills coming in a week from Friday, we're not going in that area. are we?
Well, I haven't
plan
heard
to use the
anything
10th
yet.
at all?
We're not using the ones that have for Skills USA.
No, we are not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Yeah. But if we needed to, obviously, we
Go down the
can
road.
make arrangements.
Hire a taxi carrying all the people.
Yeah, it still does.
Yep. Michelle, would you anticipate you'll also do 11.2, which is the winter sports update football
Is that
awards?
what Mr. Steele just said?
Did he just say
I can. We can do it together.
It's a tough room.
I can do whatever. I don't want to take away all of his things.
Yeah. Rich Brennan trained him, don't worry, he just needs one topic.
Did Mark leave this for me?
We'll still use the same amount of time.
What? Okay, so from me, you should be getting 3 different things. First of all, it's a packet, this small packet, and then you should have 2 reports. One should say admission status, and one should say exploratory placement. So I believe they're coming around. Why don't we do this? We'll start with exploratory placement, seeing those are the people in the building. And that's being the current freshmen and where they are now. So we place students in December of their freshman year after going through 7 weeks of exploratory. The placement of 310 students took place sort of at the beginning. I think we did it the first week in December. 278 received their first choice. That's 89% of our students coming in. That's a huge jump. I gave you some historical data where you can see where we've gone from 80% to 83 to 89. And part of that is, I mean, you do admissions, so I do link it directly to that. It's very important that, as they come in the door, that they're well diverse, because that means their placement is going to be well diverse, and more kids are going to get their first choices because there's equal, it spreads out sort of. They're not all coming in for one shot. Best way to put it. Below you can kind of see the years in review, so you can, if you look at the green columns, that indicates 17 and 18. The first column is what they wanted when they first arrived here in either first, second, or third place, and then where they ended up first, second, and third place in their final choices, just to give you an overview. And I think that's a nice picture. It tells a lot about what our shops are doing and how over time, you know, you're introducing a 14-year-old to a career path, and our shops do a really nice job in introducing them, and in some cases, a shop that a student may not have considered at all, they do a really nice job in presenting that curriculum. The thing I want to speak to is below, as you see our timeline and how that progresses. It's not different. This year was no different than any other year. On the back page is really where I want to talk to you, and that's when this packet comes into play. One of the things that we did in the course of Exploratory this year was that we took our we had a November 16th vocational career night. And it was the second year that we had it, but it was a new format. We did a lot of evaluation of the November 6th, 2016 event, and we redesigned it for this year to make it more useful for our parents. And it was student-driven. The students were given a survey to ask them, at this point in your experience, what are the shops you're interested in? Then the parents arrived that night and went through those top 4 choices that the kids were interested in. We worked with all of the shops to work on a presentation that included the teachers, alumni, and companies. And it was focused on giving a parent the opportunity to see what their student's life would be like if they went down that path. Oftentimes, I think we see parents have a preconceived notion in their head that I want him to be an engineer, I want him to be an engineer, I want him to be a doctor, but this one was a chance to go into auto tech maybe and see what that has to offer, what it might look like long term. This was a very successful night. We had great response. The presentations were well done. The people that came in, companies that came in and joined us, really added to the parent and the student's ability to make a wise decision. So I think that helped our 89% as well. These packets are a result of preparing for that night. And so the administrative team each was given 2 or 3 shops to work with. We worked with them to work on and design these pamphlets with the help of Sharon and Nicole's office. We got some of the content, different projects we've added up. If you look at the front page, you'll see things like certification. In some cases, there's a quote from a student or an alumni. The back page highlights projects, hands-on things that they're doing, talks more about college and career placement, talks about salaries and growth. And so we put together one for each of the 18 shops. It is now a 2-part brochure. This information is also mimicked on our website. We redesigned all the web pages. So now it's a very seamless presentation of our shops and what they have to offer. Very proud of this, and all the people that helped. It was a lot of work to do to get to that point. And the parents that night when they arrived, they got a schedule for their night, but they also got this handout for every shop that they were going to visit and the shops that their students saw in their 7 weeks, because they only saw 4 that night, but they visited 7. So that parent went home that night and had great resources to help them make a good decision for their child's education, technical education. Right now, we're in the process of working on the view book for next year. It's a 2-year project all the time. We are considering going to use these and put 2-page spreads in our view book that would represent the front and back. So because we found this to be so valuable. So that's the next step in these brochures. So that kind of gives you some exploratory and where we're at. Right now, we'll go through the process of, are there any freshmen that want to move around? We check them at the end of the year to make sure that they're on track. And then if there's anyone that needs to be moved, we'll do it at that time. But right now, we're holding steady. I think it was also interesting, we're holding steady at 310, which doesn't allow for many next year sophomores, but we'll deal with that in a sec. That's my next presentation. So that's exploratory.
Megan, a comment, two comments actually. First one is, thank you for giving information that also, goes back to 15, 16, and 17. I've always wanted to see what something compares as opposed to get a snapshot of what this year is, because I didn't remember the year before. So thank you for doing that, and continue to do that. It gives us an idea of the trend that's taking place. Second thing is, this was a great idea. I'm looking at salaries and four-year colleges, and you've got everything right here. Very succinct, very well put together, job growth opportunities, hands-on. It's all-encompassing. I'm sure the parents were much appreciated when they were able to get this.
That was a huge team effort, a lot of writing.
It's a lot of work in there, I can see. I tell you, it really came out nice. That's a nice piece, a real nice piece. Thank you for that. Any other comments?
Michelle, it's not uncommon that the school committee wishes to gauge the delta between the previous October 1 count to the new, because obviously we're a long way from the new October 1. But it might be helpful if we get a little clarification on the 330, letters of acceptance that went out in the first wave for the next cycle, what the deltas are, which we've seen inside, but at some point.
So let's move on then. If we're ready to admissions, then I'll do that under that. Okay. So admission status as of April.
Yes.
I try to give you a big picture of the year. This is where we're at. I said to Mr. Steele earlier tonight that when I did the calculations on the CHOP, I moved from 1,198 into the 12s, which I thought was interesting. We're at 1218. I believe that's the highest we've ever been for enrollment at the school. 310 freshmen, 308 your sophomores, 304 for your juniors, and 296 on your seniors. So that is a full building at that. I was
Close.
Here. Go ahead. What? And you can tell in the hallways when you pass. It is tight. I was here earlier this year and did tell you a little bit about sort of admissions at the beginning, so we'll kind of go through. We do our normal kickoff, where we invite the districts in to hear our presentation about 8th graders. Each year I try to do a different format for that breakfast so that it's interesting to the attendees. This year we actually had both students and their instructors come. We picked about 5 or 6 shops and had them sit within the guests and sit side by some of their sending schools and talk about their trades. Auto Tech was here, cosmetology was here, and machine tech was here, and it was really impactful. I think the 8th grade guidance counselors loved it, and so that was nice. We go into middle school presentations and 8th grade tours in the October and November time frame. That is always a challenge for us, as time on learning is always an obstacle for us when we talk to 8th grades about coming over in the schools. We continue to be extremely creative in how we make ourselves available for 8th grade tours, so that we can get every school over here. Indeed, at the end of the day, every district did visit us and were able to tour our building. Our open house was November 29th. Dr. Fitzpatrick was concerned that it would be a packed house, given that some of these tours that we had were creative, maybe didn't allow for everybody to attend. And indeed that was correct. We were as packed as we've ever been. We usually gauge that by parking spaces. So once we filled up, we then head over to Nipmuc and use their parking spaces. And by 5:45, and it starts at 5:30, we were using their spaces. So we have almost 600, I don't even know how many, 600 spaces here?
600 spots here.
So add 2 plus to a car, and then you start over there, and you can imagine how busy we were that night. And then let's just talk about applications, initiatives. As far as there's nothing really new there from year to year. Our applications were due on February 2nd. Second page tells you where we're at, not where we're at, but sort of the snapshot of how many applications we received and the numbers from each town that we received. I can tell you deltas at this time. Do you want to do that?
Well, I know it's early, and we have yet to hear from the letters of acceptance, but it's generally a strong interest by the committee members.
Okay, so these are the number of applications we received from the district, not the acceptances. We accepted 332 students on that March 23rd date, and that's a flow from now until September, because as people say no, we'll go to the next person on the list, and that could change. Right now, where we stand, Bellingham is a -8, Blackstone's up 2, Douglas is up 7, Grafton's a 0 change, Hopedale's an additional 4, Mendon's down 2, Milford's down 5, Millbury's up 17, Millville's down 2, Northbridge is up 11, Sutton's up 7, Upton is down 8, and Uxbridge is up 12. That delta is in comparison to the graduates that will be leaving us, okay? So you take the graduates, the seniors out come May, these new students come in, and that's the delta. That makes sense. We held our orientation and parent testing last week. On Saturday, we tested 288 students, and we had at orientation almost 600 parents and guardians. And they go through a 5-session day where they're learning everything from vocational to academics to assistant principal to business office and some technology. So they have a full morning as well, but it was well received. Those presentations are on our website under admissions, so on the freshman section, you can see all of those PowerPoints. So we are in a mode right now. Actually, I wonder if I took it out, and then I don't think I went back. I think I went to ask my assistant. It said 100 phone calls. That was last year's stat. I need to go back in. I want to say at this point we've talked to almost 225 students that did not get in. Our numbers are the people. I said to Mr. Steele it might be easier for them just to grab their application and line up in a row because the amount of people that we've talked to that want to talk to us about their kids.
Just curiosity, that's a pretty impressive number. Who handles and what do they say on those type of phone calls?
So the calls can come into any one of us, and the letters come in. And I should say calls and letters. Okay. So the letters will come into myself or Mr. Steele, and the phone calls come into my office. So my assistant Anne Marie and I. So between the three of us.
And email. And email.
And email. And I should say I received even one from one of the assistant principals today. They will go to anyone that they can to try to get to us. We share their status as far as how they did on the application, because that's their son or daughter's record, and then we kind of talk them through the process and how it works, how we go through things through the summer. I always tell them that I never leave a seat empty, even if it's September 18th. I said if that seat's empty, I know someone on that list wants it. We'll go back to it. Today I talked to a family whose son was not going to probably make it through that up into the wait list. And we talked about how we go about looking at next year. It's not over, that we reapply and we work on grades and we work on attendance and whatever we need to work on. We find huge success in the number of students that come back. Matter of fact, I want to say the first 8 that we accepted last year were repeat applicants that had gone back to the drawing board, had worked on whatever they needed to work on, and applied, and lo and behold, they're here now. So, it's part of, they're passionate about their student. It is their child. I would be too. And we just do our best to communicate with them and answer questions and lend an ear and tell them they can call back. And most of them are very appreciative.
And your assistant must be a saint.
She is a saint, and she deals with me.
That's a tough, that's a tough one to handle a phone call, boy.
It is, it is, it is.
Thank you, Michelle.
Want to do some sports in the sports world?
What is sport?
We'll move over and.
Do football first or then?
Oh, sure.
This is really cool. Yeah, Zoom.
Right before I came down, I felt like I should just double check what's happening on the Markham Award for the Boston Globe, because I felt like that might be a question. We are at the top of the leaderboard right now in the large division at 71%. The next school closest to us is 65%.
So that is all contests,
All
winning
contests,
percentile of
varsity,
all
all varsity contests. So.
Congratulations, so far.
So far,
So
we have
far.
to get through the spring.
So far.
We get through the
Qualified.
spring.
We can do it.
I'm running out of space. Where's Mr. Brochu? In my awards cabinet. You could mark that in the minutes.
Oh, Mark can make some new cabinets, kind of.
Nice street one.
Another project for the kids.
Yeah, it starts with football.
Let's talk football. And I think they came in. They actually came in February. Was it February? Yeah. Was it February meeting? So February 15th, we held our award ceremony for our football team, and which was a great season to recognize. Let's see. We always recognize all three teams on that night. Obviously a unique year going to Gillette. They did win the Central Mass title, and so they decided as a group that they would like to do jackets. So they did fundraise for that, and they received a really nice zip-up jacket with their with the Central Mass title on it as far and then state finalist title. So that was nice. Along with that, they received certificates from the MIAA for their accomplishments, and then certificates from us. You should know that we continue to get, there are kids on this team that continue to get accolades. Reese will be honored April 29th, I think is the date. It's a dinner in Marlboro, and he is the Central Mass Offensive MVP for our division. So that's in all the schools, yeah, so that's really nice. He and Jordan Amaro were recognized in February at the Metro West Daily News as All-Stars, and then Ethan Blake and JD and Tanya are being recognized by the Worcester Telegram and Gazette as All-Stars, and their banquet is coming up. I think theirs is in June. So we continue to get accolades for them and their accomplishments. So it was a nice night. We had like a dessert buffet afterwards, so it was nice.
Well done. Winter sports.
Winter sports, also in the books, March 12th. It was a fun season. Obviously, let's see, ice hockey went to the district finals. They lost against a team that went on to win the states, and this other team played very good against us, but they had a great season. Matter of fact, we're undefeated in the regular season, ice hockey was, so it's always hard to lose your only game as your last game, but they did a great job. We had 3 seniors play on that team. Again, it's a co-op with Grafton. It's a very good co-op. It works really well. We had 9 kids play on that team, and I think we had 11 on the JV team. So great season. I enjoy my ice hockey time.
I'd say that was the best hockey team we've ever had.
Really?
You know, skill-wise and so forth. Obviously, we've won a state championship, so you could argue that was the best hockey team we ever had. But it all comes down to who you line up with and who you play. And when we did lose, you know, keep in mind, it's always nice to lose to the person that does go on, the team that does go on to win the title, so. Looking forward to next year, they're really on a roll.
What was the score, just out of curiosity?
And it's not indicative because at the end we were pulling from the net, you know, I think it ended up 5-1 or 4-1, but we were pulling the goalie to try to make some things happen, and then I think we did it twice.
Sometimes that works and sometimes it
Yeah, it did not, it didn't work. It was Lunenburg that we lost to, and they were
phenomenal. You know, you just
Yeah, well, they
give them their
won.
credit too,
Yeah.
they're due. They
In
were
the
due.
season, we had tied them, and then we had beaten them, but almost at the buzzer.
Really?
So we knew it was going to be a battle.
Cool.
Yeah. Boys varsity made playoffs this year, which is the first time I think in a couple of years. They went in with a record of 8-2, 8-12, which is not 50%, but we were second in our league, so we are an automatic qualifier. They're a very young team. Two of our starters are sophomores, so I expect good things from them in the future. Girls varsity basketball had a great season. They went into the tournament as the 1 seed. I don't even know what their regular season was, 17-3. They went all the way to the to the Central Mass Finals at WPI, and it was a great run for them. Really enjoyable for us. They played in the state boat as well. Unfortunately, fell short that day, but nothing. It was really a great ride. I can't say much. I love when they take us on those good rides. So they did really well. And alpine skiing continues to grow, and I think that's, I'm sure you're thinking, what's that? That's a co-op that we do with NIPMA. And it grew from 1 kid to 3 kids, and now I think we're at 8 kids, and they're out there. It's great. So that was winter. It was a good season.
Questions, comments?
Any comments, questions?
Well, it finally stopped snowing, I think, so we'll get on with spring sports.
Spring just started.
Spring just started this week.
Started.
Just started this week. So,
Thank you.
good. Well, thank you.
Number 9, Facilities Subcommittee Report, Mr. Lavin, please.
Yes, the committee met on Tuesday, and went over a few things. But the biggest thing, everybody's going to be happy to hear, that Tuesday, weather permitting, the football sign will be completely done.
Oh, great.
Got the cranes coming in, weather permitting, put up the beaver heads done, the signs for Unibank and everything are all done, ready to be installed. And then we'll have further notice of when we're going to have the dedication to the sign.
Again, if I can just add, we're hopeful that happens. It's supposed to rain very hard on Monday, and the crane truck actually drives to behind the fence of the softball field to come through that way. So I'll be communicating with the sign company, with the crane truck all over the weekend, including Monday, to see if we can do this on Tuesday. But if not, we'll still try to do it next week, so we're ready to go.
And the infield and the softball field has been redone. With that.
Very good. Thank everybody for their patience and understanding. I'm thrilled for the kids and the coaches that we were able to do that, so thank you.
That's basically it right now.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
It's also the soccer and the lacrosse field,
Yeah.
not just football.
Okay.
It was actually nice to be able to see the scores and the quarters of lacrosse today,
Yeah.
because last year, little tiny flip sign, so it looked nice.
Nice. Okay, can we go to the Assistant Superintendent of Finance? Mr. Johnson's not here, so he's on the mountain.
Those items would have been passed over anyway.
Both of them passed up?
Yes. No new line items and no donation approvals.
Okay, Mr. Steele,
I'll
please.
gladly take Mr. Johnson's time and add it to mine.
We knew that was coming.
I already penciled it in that way.
Who's he be getting a reminder?
Sounds like a bad habit to me, but go ahead.
All right, quick like a bunny, here we go.
Actually, 15 minutes late. Why don't we skip it?
Oh, see, with that high number. First item we have is 11.1, you'll find in your packet. It's a Skills USA report.
This refers to our District 5 conference that took place at Bay Path on the 23rd of March. We brought roughly 200 students with us. That's a high number, but it's a typical number for us, for students who we feel qualified to go to district level competition. And as you can see, the total medal count was 102, which I don't know about you, but I would say that 50% of our kids coming home with medals is very impressive. That certainly is not a typical performance. That is outstanding by any measure. That breaks down to 35 gold medals, 34 silvers, 33 bronze. We had some interesting things happen. I believe there were 11 sweeps, if I'm not mistaken. Sweep is when you win all three, bronze, silver, and gold in a given competition. We also had, for the first time, a couple of students, you'll see them listed here on the sheet, had perfect scores. So that's, well, quite literally, doesn't get any better than that. We also featured our state officer, Adam Kavanaugh, and a state officer candidate, Annika Koopman. And so we're looking very good as we roll into Skills USA States, which is hosted here in just another week or so after we get back from break.
And you're invited.
Oh, absolutely. So, Dr. Fitzpatrick and I would like to invite you, of course, to Skills USA here. It's on, what's the date? It's Friday.
The 27th.
Thank you. Friday the 27th. Is the governor confirmed to be coming?
Yes.
The governor is coming. Secretary of
Labor.
Labor is still coming?
Acosta, yes.
So Secretary Acosta.
I called Karen last night, he's not.
Secretary Acosta is not coming?
The Karen Ward said last night that the secretary was not coming.
Okay. I guess since the governor's coming, the Secretary
Yes,
of Labor
on
is not.
Governor Baker, no, on Secretary Acosta. Okay, that's the latest that's just in. Anyhow, great kickoff event here in the morning of, on the 27th. If you'd like to come and join us, you're more than welcome. We will have here approximately 500 to 600 state competitors. They typically consist of the silver and gold medalists of all of the districts around the state. And so we're honored to once again host the competition here at Valley Tech. A few of the competitions will take place off campus, but most of them are here. The only exceptions, masonry will be over at the Highway Barn, correct?
Correct.
We have our diesel technology. Our competition takes place over at Milford. It's not Milford Cat anymore.
Southwood.
Milton Cat.
Milton Cat, thank you. And the Teamworks, which is a building competition, takes place over in Marlboro under a large tent at the hotel. But it's, if you haven't seen it, it's certainly something that's fairly extraordinary, and you're more than welcome to come. Questions on Skills USA?
If I may, I think from Patrick, that's the highest number you've ever had for medal counts. I think you had 98 was your high point prior.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think you might be correct about that, yeah.
But we just were talking that up the other night when we went to the finance committee meeting, and I said, 98. Now I think you get 102, so.
But it's great counting, as they say.
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, we certainly look very strong going into states, and of course, you know what happens when we do well at states. We send a large contingent to nationals, so there's a fundraising for that in anticipation all year.
Good, Mr. Lanier, fly him down.
And we could try that. Make a few trips, right? Any other questions on 11.1 Skills USA? Okay, thank you. Moving to 11.2, we just gave you the winter sports update and fall sports, so I will move on to 11.3, and that is our graduation information. Another invite for you, essentially. We will be lining up at 5 p.m. on May 30th at Hanover Theater. The ceremony itself will begin at 6 p.m. sharp. This is another event that we love to see you there. If you would like to come, just simply let us know and we'll reserve you special seating up front in the Hanover Theater. I would recommend, if you are coming, to plan on getting there no later than 5 o'clock. It's very, very full house. We pull in about 2,600 or so guests, fill the whole place to the last seat, and of course, you know, this year we're bringing over 300 graduates with us. Quite a celebration. I would imagine we'll be joined on stage by the usual accompaniment. So Attorney Hall will be up there with us, I would think.
That's correct.
And we also have a number of guests, well, let me say guest performers, students showcasing their talents, whether it be singing or musical numbers, things like that. So certainly something to look forward to every year, and would like to make sure that you're all welcome to come. Questions about graduation? Moving on to 11.4, Distinguished Staff and Students Report. In addition to Mr. Broderick's MBA honor that he received tonight, we actually received a few others from that same organization at the same time. Two very noteworthy. One to mention is Silvana Reed was named our outstanding non-traditional student, vocational student. She is in manufacturing technology, and specifically has major focused on the machining side of manufacturing tech. She was honored and recognized as the outstanding non-traditional student at Gillette Stadium earlier this month, and that also was attended by the governor, and you know, he personally honored her for her accomplishments. We also had Silvana come to our faculty meeting last week, and certainly was acknowledged by our entire faculty for quite a outstanding achievement. So again, that's Silvana Reed from Manufacturing Technology. The MVA also sent an award to our carpentry instructor, construction technology instructor, Paul Savard, and he was a recipient of the Outstanding New Teacher Nominee Award. And they recognized him. We nominated him, of course, but he was recognized as an extraordinary, exceptional talent as a new vocational teacher, which I believe is defined by 3 years or less in teaching. Paul Savard is also a graduate of the program.
Another positive placement.
Another positive placement. And one more honor to alert you of. Each year we choose a promising practices nominee out of the Blackstone Valley Consortium. The consortium consists of our 13 sending communities and the representative school districts, 11 school districts, essentially as managed by their superintendent, including ours. And the superintendents all nominate a promising practices nominee for their excellence in the classroom. We alternate here each year between a career technical instructor and an academic instructor. This year we're in a career technical rotation, and we unanimously chose Matt Connors, our engineering instructor, as this year's promising practices nominee. Well deserved, and he will be honored coming up in June at the Hazel Waters Mansion, the ceremony put on by the area superintendents. We certainly are proud of him for all he's accomplished. I know you've seen reports and presentations by him for the success that we've had with the engineering program, and he has essentially been the founding father of that program here, and you know, done well, to say the least. Questions about our distinguished staff and students?
Very impressive. Yep, indeed.
good news is they keep coming, so I'll continue to let you know as we have more impressive accolades with others, okay? 11.5, senior calendar has been included for you. It's purple 11.5, item 11.5, so keep you up to date and on the pulse of a very busy month here, the month of May, including not only all of the exams but also the different awards ceremonies and significant events happening with seniors as we bring them to May 30th, which is that graduation ceremony. So this is a nice snapshot for you if you're trying to keep up with what's going on here in the month of May, and just provide that for your information.
Thank you.
11.6, I have one out-of-state trip for you to consider tonight. This one is actually a second, I guess I could say second annual at this point, trip by the C Club, that's the Students for Environmental Awareness. They will be requesting to return for a similar trip they took last year. It's a 2-night stay at a farm in New Hampshire. I believe it's Troy, New Hampshire, if I'm not mistaken. And it's basically, they work the farm, have to literally go out and produce breakfast and so forth, bring it in, cook it, take care of the animals. They have a full hands-on adventure there.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We got a motion, we got a second on the Sea Club field trip out of state. Any comments, any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Can you say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole, I see you shaking your head. You'd like to chaperone this trip? No.
I'm good. I'm going to stay right there. Commission.
Okay.
She wants to read about it.
All the eggs you get, I'll bet.
All right. If I was going, I would bring Mr. Finn with me. He knows his way around the farm.
Yes, indeed.
I think that's all I have for you, folks.
If you could, yes.
Anthony, with snow days and all, what looks like the end of the school year for the general population?
We are June 26th, I believe it's a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken.
June 26th?
26th. Puts us in a bit of a squeeze, looking at Mr. Brochu in the back corner, because it really narrows us down to a 6-week window to get all of our summer projects completed. That's one aspect of that that's not often considered. Obviously, the students and arguably some of the teaching staff might really enjoy that longer summer break. You can feel a noticeable difference when you have a 6-week summer as opposed to, I think last year we had almost an 8-week summer. So it's palpable, you can feel it. But particularly here at Valley Tech, there is a very busy season for a few folks. Particularly facilities not only have the regular maintenance, but also the summer projects that we do. In my office, we feel it more in a pinch that we typically have 15 to 20 new hires. That's an awful lot of interviewing and negotiating to do in the 6 weeks period, even if you get a jump now. So we'll have a lot of that kind of activity going, but we always manage to pull it together. One other component that's a little bit of a squeeze, or maybe a lot of bit of a squeeze for us, is that you have to close out your year-end data. So it's your student data, right, promotions and everything else for the state. You have a very compressed window to do that, both close it and open it. So it's a little bit challenging for us too. But we have so far managed to get this done over the years. But it's sometimes when you get down to a true 6-week summer like this one, it gets pretty sneaky tight. So no more snow.
One more question?
Yes.
I think it was last meeting, along with the MCAS, one of the grades is taking, as I guess a trial, a new state test. Is that coming up or has that been done yet?
That's coming up.
That's coming up.
It's a computer-based trial. All schools are participating in this.
And when is that?
We're not unique in that. It is coming up, I believe it's right after the math test, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be right around May 25th, which is a Friday. It's probably rounding out that next week. I'm going to say the week of the 29th and 30th.
Okay.
I think it's on a rotational basis because it's all done in a computer lab, so it's probably going to take, it'll give us a window of about a week that we can take it, and we'll experience that in small groups, but during the window of testing.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Budget report. Yeah.
Budget report, Mr. Lavin.
Yes, as you can see, the doc's been very busy, doing a lot of finance committee meetings. So, Doc, I'll turn it over to you because Mendon, Mr. Braun's not here.
School committee member Braun and myself were present at the Mendon Finance Committee meeting. It was a lively exchange, a professional exchange, and we were able to respond to the questions that were raised.
Northbridge?
On March 20th, both Doc and I attended the FinCom for Northbridge. Basically the same as Mendon. There was a, I wouldn't say lively, but very professional exchange. Doc presented the budget. FinCom had a few questions, clarifications, which were answered either right there on the spot or was sent via reports back to Northbridge afterwards. So very favorable.
Good. Douglas? John?
Yes, Doc, Mr. Steele, and myself met on the 26th, and it was very lively meeting, and they're still asking questions, which, you know, I guess is taking a lot of time away from school day just to ask questions, to have them answered. So, I mean, Doc, I don't know if you or Anthony would like to, you know, speak on the matter.
Yeah, we did get an acknowledgement from the treasurer for the town that a message of appreciation for the detailed responses that we provided.
Yeah.
So.
Good. Sutton?
On the 27th, Doc and I met with the Finance Committee in Sutton. As usual, we were welcome, professional group. Were there a little longer this year than in past year. There were a few more questions and concerns, especially given the current climate everyone is experiencing on the financial level. The town did ask that going forward we explore some alternative measures for reducing the OPEB obligations. They did ask us to continue to pursue better opportunities in health insurance claims, as every district is struggling with that. They asked for a little more information going forward regarding enrollment statistics regarding the kids from towns. They want to know what programs the kids are enrolled in, what vocational shops they're looking in, just so that they have a better view of where the kids are being placed. And they did also ask for greater predictability in future assessment. Doc and I were receptive to the requests and said that we would touch base with them back in the fall.
Yeah, in this case, I did a report both to the Finance Committee as well as to you, because the sense was that I, kind of like the assignment I felt I received, was that would I, not only with Ms. Mitchell and myself, give considerations to their recommendations, but we approached the full school committee. And so I kind of killed two birds with one stone, if you will. By responding to them, I could share their requests and recommendations or considerations via response, as well as making aware of them. So that's what I attempted to do.
Overall, good meeting.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, thank you. Millville, Doc and I went on April 3rd. We met with a co-joined meeting between some of the finance chair and a couple of folks, as well as the full school committee, the select people. And we had a very good meeting. It's always been a professional opportunity there, and of course it was even nicer that we were in the building in which the folks here allowed us to spend the time to build, as well as the people there were much appreciative of the new environment we have relative to the old one for the town hall. Three things came out. One of them was, as almost every year, they asked about LPM in that program. We answered the questions from the select people on that. There was a question that came up about E&D, wanted to understand a little better. Dr. was able to handle that one as he usually does. And also there were some questions that, or a question that came up on the percentage, as it does every year, of what percentage does BVT take for special education. That was one that always comes up. So we handled those questions and gave them back the explanations on anything that they had other than that. And other than that, they were very appreciative, very much appreciative, especially in the new building. We were able to sit in thanks to the folks at BVT to help out. So it went very well. Grafton.
Dr. Fitzpatrick and I met with Grafton Finance Committee on April 4th. It was actually pushed out 2 weeks because of snow. Thought the meeting in general went well. Talked about a number of things. I kind of went over, we're at the lowest number of students at BVT in 10 years. And I expressed my concern that I don't think we're doing enough to promote the school to our students in Grafton. And the opportunities here, our students in Grafton, every student in Grafton should have the chance to know about what we do here at BVT, and we need to promote the opportunities here more and get more applicants from Grafton. We also talked a little bit about the minimum contribution, because even though the numbers are down in Grafton, there was a little bit of a discussion that the cost for Grafton didn't go down this year proportionally to the number of students, and that's because our minimum contribution in Grafton continues to go up year after year. So we did talk about that. I made a point to talk about the grants and how at this point in the year we're looking at roughly $1 million in grants, and we continue to push hard here at the school for grant opportunities to supplement our programs. And I emphasize that most of our grants are targeted for specific skills, specific career departments in the school, and they're not just general. We need to apply those in the trades that they're stipulated for. Also, we did talk a little bit about what our students are prepared for, a little bit of the comment that we always hear, how it's, BVT might be becoming an exclusive school. So I talked a little bit about how our enrollment over the years has de-emphasized grades and looks more toward attendance, recommendations, and the interview process. And then we continue to talk about the skills. And just like I think in one of the other town meetings, it did get brought up a little bit about special education. And if our shops prohibited opportunities here for kids that did have IEPs and were on a SPED program, and said certainly not. We make accommodations. Our admittance into the school is a blind admittance. It's based on either your school curriculum, which also includes your IEP, as well as recommendations and attendance and that type of thing. So in general, I think it was a positive meeting. We talked more about the curriculum and the intent of the school and sort of the charter of the school than we did about finance issues, other than mostly the minimum contribution was what the main topic was.
Dr. Fridge.
On Tuesday night, again, similar to Noble, it was a joint presentation to the Finance Committee and the Board of Select Persons, and it was well received. There was one person said, "How many grant writers do you have?" And I said, "Actually, none. The business manager and myself primarily do the grant writing," and so that brought kind of a scratching of the head. But that was an opportunity to talk about how Curtis has picked up the reins there. And I said, "Well, how long, didn't you previously have a grant writer?" I said, "Yes, we did. If you go further enough back, we had a grant writer who was paid from the grants. But we did have another grant writer who, and they asked, when did that person leave?" And I said, "Well, towards the latter part of the previous school year." And so, so they were confident of this. It was also recognized that Uxbridge is one of the communities
that we have written grants for the community over the years. And so, but in any case, I would call it professional and reasonable, and we'll see. It's not unlike the other situations. The finance committees generally do not vote that night. They're gathering information, and they subsequently make a determination.
Okay. Good, thank you. Number 13, Superintendent Director's Report.
You have item 13.1, which, as I mentioned earlier during the open public forum on school choice, with Anthony's help, the school council, as mentioned during the public hearing, provided us evidence that they would not support school choice or recommend that you not support it. Subsequent to that, the school committee voted not to support school choice. In Massachusetts, it's rather an unusual rule. You have to notify the state that you're not going to do it, or else you automatically are doing it. Okay, so we have the communication already prepared, anticipating your vote, and it will go out tomorrow, confirming that vote. Any questions on that? I assume it wasn't controversial at the school council level.
Not in the slightest. Unanimous.
The last Thursday, we were one of just a handful of schools that was recognized by the governor for a commendation for high achievement and high progress, and received a certificate and kind of a interesting hug from the governor. And I could have sworn he said "you" again. Between all the awards the students are getting and things like that, they're becoming more and more familiar to him. But this is another indication. The good news here is I trust that since the governor has access to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education reports that follow all the school systems and all the students, they can clearly illustrate and demonstrate and confirm that a student has grown leaps and bounds from where they were in previous assessment after they spent time with us. That's not a criticism of any other school system. We actually credit the sending school systems with the foundation, but no one should take away the fact that the achievement has continued and it's measurable, and it's not a case of creaming or everyone walks on water before they get here, but they learn how to do these things. And so I credit the teachers, the counselors, the parents, and the kids for their dedication and their willingness to really grow along with us. So it's nice to receive this award. The governor is expected to be here for Skills USA. We open that session 2 Fridays from now.
Jerry, question?
Yes.
On that very subject, would it be possible when we receive the MCAS report in the fall that you also provide the 8th grade, how many needed improvement? I'm not asking town by town, but if you can say 70% needed, 60%, 10%, so we can see the quantitative growth in that area?
It is possible. I'd say that you're going to see numbers that range from 40, 44, 40 to 50%. Okay, yeah. That's what the data that we see. And there could be slight variation from community to community or school system to school system.
But that could give us an idea.
Yeah.
So when they say, well, you're taking all the cream.
Yeah.
Look at it. This is what your school gave us. All right. You gave us 40% that need improvement. They went to 100% in 2 years with half of the academics that you provide.
We certainly can look at benchmarks and reference points, but we try to do that so that...
I know, you don't want to embarrass.
Well, we try not to do that, okay? And that the growth is evident. It does speak to the fact that students, you talked, several conversations, Anthony just talked about the de-emphasis of grades and looking at lots of other factors. That's playing a part in our admissions, and we're trying to be consistent with our mission.
I understand that.
Yeah, so, but we can look at more data counts.
It's just very annoying when they say, oh, you're taking all the cream and that's why you're scoring so well and we're scoring so poorly, and really that is not the truth of the matter.
Well, generally a person who makes that comment is not a parent.
No.
Because they personally have witnessed the growth, okay?
That's correct.
Or a grandparent either. So, as far as tomorrow, we go in, we're one of 3 schools in the state being named for the Green Awards of kind of environmental sensitivity, recycling and everything else. So we're back in the State House tomorrow with another team receiving another award.
Are they going to give you a permanent office down there?
No, I'm not hoping to go tomorrow. So, are there any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. The Superintendent's Gourmet Dinner, thank you for those who were able to join us and support that. It's one of the many fundraisers that the school initiates rather than being dependent upon fees. Okay? We are able to do things that most schools are not able to do, and we look at a diversified menu, no pun intended, to raise money from multiple sources. And this is one of those that's been a Olympic-style gourmet dinner, which students include in their portfolios, and really kind of it's a masterful, extravaganza. So, any comments or questions? Hearing none. We traditionally invite the school committee members to consider making a scholarship contribution. For the previous contribution level has been in the $35 range. And I believe retired school committee member Bob Snow has already made his annual donation. Okay, I'm sure Kevin Harvey would do that if he were alive.
Yep.
Okay, but in any case, we make you aware of that. Any questions on that? Okay, we have there are two resignations. Well, no, there's one resignation. We had a bookkeeper, personnel, accounts payable. Who worked in the business office and had an opportunity in the private sector that she felt was more conducive to her schedule and needs, and so she gave notice. And, it wasn't that Curtis worked too hard, and just she transitioned. We also had a special leave, one of our highly regarded health education, health assistant instructors with nursing credentials. Is pregnant and has asked for some time for child hearing, and certainly we will support that. Although I did see her in here today with her mother in cosmetology, so, but she was there to have her hair done, I guess. So, nevertheless, that's it from my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions on any of that? Seeing none, we'll continue to move. New business. Anybody have any new business that goes on? John?
I've had a lot of people ask me about, the papers for, re-election.
Yep.
And I just want to let everybody know, Cheryl told me that possibly by the end of the month, because she had already called just the other day. So I just wanted to give all the members an update on that because, everybody's like wondering what's going on. And I had asked, and that's what the feedback I had, so I just let everybody know.
Coming, to us.
I'm not sure if we mail, we pick them up, whatever, but she said that, they should be, by the end of the month, we should be receiving them.
From the elections division.
Yes, so just an update on that.
Any other new news, anybody? I've got, yes, sir.
You want to do it?
Yeah, I'll do mine. I got two quick things. One is that I attended a meeting last night in Millville. We're going for a 2.5 override, and the override is very cantankerous in town, and indeed there are some very large increases in the 20 and 25% ranges that we're going for an override. That the town does not have an industrial base, obviously, but everything is on the back of the residents. So we really are going to have to watch this, and I'll be actively involved in it. 2.5 override is pretty serious business in a small town. The other thing I wanted to mention is I was able to go Monday to a meeting in Blackstone with the FinCom over there. They had an agenda that caught my eye, and on that agenda was they had an education meeting, and the second thing that caught my eye, this is the finance committee, the second thing that caught my eye was that they had a meeting there where they are studying or presenting the funding to study dissolving from the Blackstone Millville Regional School District. I don't think that they are going to be successful with that, but it was kind of something that caught my attention. So I took the chairman of the board, selectman for Millville, and he and I were able to go over and to sit and to listen to the rationale of what the chairman had to say, and they are going to try to request funding and try to get it to the Board of Selectmen. So stay tuned. There's a lot of news taking place between those two towns, so I'll try to keep you informed, and hopefully things will come to cooler heads, and things will it should not affect, as I understand it here, anything with BVT, but would obviously affect the regional relationship between Blackstone and Millville. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Doc?
I have three quick ones. Earlier today, I met with representation from the Milford Finance Committee. That wasn't known before the agenda was printed. And it's had kind of a working lunch, again, harmonious and a fair exchange. On Saturday, I was invited to present to the friends and the trustees of the Daniel Farm, which is a Rolling Hills and museum in Blackstone, where we had the Civil War reenactment not too long ago. We're now looking at an American Revolution reenactment next year with them. And so it's kind of another exciting venture. I hope people are able to participate in that. It's kind of bringing social studies and civics education alive. And one of the major organizations that works with regional schools is known as MARS, the Mass Association of Regional Schools. Our students are building their website. So we continue to help them in other ways. Thank you.
Any new business? Move on. Items for the good committee. You all you got that, or you've got your copies there, right? Who needs them? All right, we'll deal with that. Next regularly scheduled school meeting will be May 17th, 2018. I'm going to close the meeting prepared by the chair, and the meeting then will then become officially closed with no business to follow. I'll have a vote on that adjournment. Everybody say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeremy.